It's coming up the holiday of Shavuos, and today's shir is really based on something I gave years ago about the concept of Torah Min Hashamayim, that the Torah was given from the Eibishter. This is what Shavuos is all about. On the other hand, when it comes to Psak Halacha, Torah Lo Bashamayim, the Torah is not in heaven, and we have to paskin according to us as human beings. So is this really a contradiction or not? And I'm going to share with you some of my notes. It could be that it's not in perfect order, but let's see how that goes. And here we have the document. We'll also be using Eitzar HaChachma and Bar Ilan. So, as far as Torah Min Hashamayim, so the Rambam writes in Pirush HaMishnayos that this is a Yesod this is one of the fundamental principles of faith, HaYesod HaTshi, HaHetek, V'hu ki HaTorah Azais Mutetekes Me'es HaBorei Hashem Yisparach Loi Mizu Lasai. The ninth of the Yud Gimel Ikarim. Yud Gimel Ikarim is from the Pirush HaMishnayos in Chelek, which is the last chapter of Sanhedrin, that we have to recognize that the Torah is given from the Eibishter, not from anybody else. It was given to Moshe Rabbeinu. You can't add or subtract anything from the Torah because it is heavenly. That is based on what it says in the Mishnah. Ha'omer ein Torah min hashamayim is ein lechelik la'olam haba. He does not have a portion in olam haba. So this is the ninth of the Yud Gimel Ikarim of the 13 principles of faith. On the other hand, it says also in the Chumash, in Sefer Devarim, Ki ha-mitzvah azayis asher anoich mitzavcha hayom lo niflesi mimeka v'lo rechaikehi lo b'shamayim hi. It's not in heaven. Ki karvei lecha adavar ma'od, as we all know, that the Torah is not in heaven, it's close to you. So this we could say it's only used as a metaphor, trying to explain to us that it's not far away from us. So of course there's no contradiction. Torah was for Moshe Rabbeinu, it was given in heaven, it's Min Hashamayim, but it is close to us. However, the halacha is Torah Lo Bashamayim, meaning it's also negeya to halacha. So how could we reconcile the two? When it comes to Moshe Rabbeinu, Vayihi Shamim Hashem Arbaim Yom V'Arbaim Laila, Lechem Lo Yochal, he did not eat any bread, Mayim Lo Shasa, he did not drink anything, Vayichtov Ala Luchais Eis Divrei Abris Aseres Hadvarim. So we find over here, this is the pasuk that tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu went up on Rosh Chodesh Elul until Yom Kippur for 40 days, and he learned Torah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is what happened. Now, the question is, if we saying that Torah Lo Bashamayim is also Noigeya to halacha, the halacha is that you can't paskin based on something spiritual. It has to be something which is in a person's seichel. The classic example for that is in the Gemara in Baba Metzia. We're bringing up Bar Ilan here, called the Tanur Shel Achnai. So the Gemara in Baba Metzia says, and we should know this. We should know this Gemara that talks about a certain stove, and it has to do with Tumah and Tahara, and it was a machlokes b'Isayim, a machlokes between Rabbi Lazar and the Chachamim. And Rabbi Lazar says his psak din, and they didn't go for it. So Rabbi Lazar comes along and says, "Im halacha kamaisi, charuv zer yechiach." Let this carob tree prove it. So neker charuv mimkaim me'ama, it was uprooted 100 amas. Some people say 400, but they answered, no, you can't bring a proof from charuv. So he said, okay, there's going to be another. I'll give you another proof. Let the stream of water prove it. If I could reverse the stream of water, once again, ein mevim rayu me'amas hamayim. Once again, he says, let the walls of the base medrash prove it. So it started to fall, and what happened at the end was that they did not paskin like Rabbi Lazar. So Rabbi Lazar got very upset, and he says, "Im halacha kamaisi mina shamayim yoichichu." Let it be proven from heaven. So the Baskol came out and said, indeed, the halacha is like Rabbi Lazar. Malachem etzel Rabbi Lazar shalach kamaisi b'chomakim, for sure. So Amad Rabbi Yeshua al Raglav, and he says, Lo Bashamayim he. The Torah was given Mehar Sinai. Ein anu mashkichim bevaskol. We can't rely on a baskol. So this is, when it comes to halacha, it does not make any difference whatsoever that miracles are happening to prove a person's point. Torah Lo Bashamayim. There is a certain klal. So here we have the klal acharei rabim lahatais, shekvar kasafta b'arsina b'Torah acharei rabim lahatais, and therefore we are not going to paskin like Rabbi Lazar. We're going to paskin like Rabbi Yeshua together with the Chachamim. Torah Lo Bashamayim is a klal in halacha. We also know the Gemara that says that Moshe Rabbeinu went up to heaven, and he had a whole debate with the Malachim, and they said, Klum Yetzar Hara Yesh Beinechem. Do you have a Yetzar Hara? This is Gemara in the Gemara says, do you have a Yetzar Hara? It says you have Kabed Esavicha V'Seimecha. Torah Lo Bashamayim. The Torah was given for people, not for malachim. That's a Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Peites, Amid Aleph. Okay, so the Gemara, when it comes to Psak Din, Torah Lo Bashamayim. So, how do we? Let's take a further look at the pasuk itself, and let's have an understanding what's happening in the pasuk. So, Moshe Rabbeinu was up on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, and he's learning Torah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, what is really happening here? What did Moshe Rabbeinu learn from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Perhaps, at least I was thinking like this when I was younger, that Torah is infinite. There's so much to learn in Torah. So how is it possible that Moshe Rabbeinu was able to learn so much from Hashem in 40 days, 40 nights? Albeit that Moshe Rabbeinu was extremely brilliant. However, so many halachas in 40 days and 40 nights. Take the entire Torah with all the mitzvahs and all the details. How was he able to learn such a thing in 40 days and 40 nights? And another question, why is it that the Torah had to tell us specifically lechem lo yachal umayim lo shasa, that he didn't eat or drink? So why is this so important? It seems integral to the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was on the mountain. But this is integral for Kabbalas HaTorah. Another question is, what was he learning with the Eibishter? So if you say that it was a miracle and he was able to learn so much, so why 40 days? So it should be in one day, 1 minute, 1 hour. The Eibishter took him 6 days to create the world, and the Mishnah even tells us he could have done it in one day or one shot. So if it was a miracle, what is this idea of 40 days and 40 nights? In order to understand this, we also have to understand what was happening by Torah Shebal Peh. So we know that Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the mountain, and it was a certain seder. Rashi brings it down, and it's based on the Gemara. There was a certain seder, a certain order of things. First, he taught it to one group, then he taught it to Aaron, and then Aaron stayed and taught to his sons, and they stayed. There was certain order of things in order for them to learn the Torah, meaning that it was al pi seichel. They had to repeat it more than one time. But really, what happened to that generation and the next generation and the generation afterwards? How were they able to comprehend all of Torah Sheba'al Peh and everything that it encompassed? You're talking about a tremendous amount of halacha. So how is it possible that they were able to transmit this from one generation to the next? Everyone had to be geniuses. What was going on? So the answer to this is really based, what I'm going to say, I think is based on this amazing medrash. That the medrash tells us, ask the question, that very same question. V'chi kol ha-Torah lomad Moshe, ksib b'Torah, aruka meretz mida or chava min hayam. That the entire Torah is vast, it's infinite. So how is it possible that Moshe Rabbeinu was able to learn everything in 40 days? Ula arba'im yayim lamda Moshe? How is it possible? The answer to the question that's given in Shmos Rabbah, Ela klolim lamdu HaKadosh Baruch Hu LaMoshe, that what HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught to Moshe were the general rules. What does it mean, the general rules? It means, like we have B'shlosh Asar Midas HaTorah Nidreshes, that you have the Kal Chemer and the Gzeir Shava, Klal Prat, everything. You have the rules how to paskin the din. When we say halacha LaMoshe Misinai, does it mean specifically that Moshe Rabbeinu learned this specific halacha? It means that he understood the rules. Let me give you an example nowadays. Nowadays we're in the tkufa of the coronavirus, and in order to paskin the halachas, the posek has to know certain rules, when we could be machmer, when we could be mekel. So one of the, if not the most important rule, is sveika d'Rabbanan l'kula, sveika d'Oraisa l'chumra. You have to first categorize and say whatever we're talking about, is this a suffix d'Rabbanan, or perhaps this is a suffix d'Oraisa, and based on that. So we could say in that level that this was very feasible, very possible for Moshe Rabbeinu to understand in 40 days. You would take an extremely smart person. Well, Moshe Rabbeinu was an extremely smart person. But the Torah is telling us by the fact that it says Arba'im Yom V'Arba'im Laila, and the idea that it was just the klolim that he had to learn, Torah Lo Bashamayim. Moshe Rabbeinu was up there, Min HaShamayim. Of course, he had the best chavrusa. This was the source of everything. So on one hand, in this pasuk, we have this shiluv, we have this combination of Torah Bashamayim, Lechem Lo Yachal, Omayim Lo Shasa, that he didn't drink any, he did not eat, nor did he drink. This is a ruchniistic thing. And it actually says in Mefarshim, how could he have eaten or drinking when he's nene miziv ashchina? That's where he got his sustenance. So that's the one part. That's the Torah min hashamayim. On the other hand, arba'im yom v'arba'im laila. It had to be a system of 40 days in order for him to get it. Why 40 days? We're soon going to get to it. But here, we're going back to the idea of Torah Sheba'al Peh. So what I'm thinking is that, let's take for example, so back to the question, Torah Sheba'al Peh, what did people really have to know? Did they have to know every single detail? Or How really did they get the Torah Shebal Peh? So we could understand this also from this amazing klal, Klolim Lamdu HaKadosh Baruch Hu LaMoshe, and we could say also in a person's back in the time of the Midbar and Moshe Rabbeinu's generation and the next generation and the generation afterwards, that how did they know anything? They knew most everything from the very fact that they grew up in a Jewish home. If they grew up in a Jewish home, they knew already the basics of kashrus. They knew whatever was negeah to them, whatever was pertinent to them regarding tahara, regarding korbanos, regarding anything. They knew how to live as a Jew. Did they have to know each and every prat, every single detail? My understanding is that they didn't have to know. There were Yechidei Skula, like there are Yechidei Skula today, that know all the different details. What they had to know? They had to know how to live as a Jew. How do they know how to live as a Jew? They knew how to live as a Jew because they grew up in a Jewish household. And in this Jewish household, they kept kashrus. Let's go a step further, and we mentioned this before. There are those who say, well, you're going to look into the Talmud, into the Gemara, into the Mishnah. What is it? It's a bunch of rabbis who can't agree on anything, and it's machlekes. It's a machlekes here, and a machlekes there, and everything. That's basically what it is. So it's just a bunch of rabbis who are arguing. But that's not the pshat. It's brought down in different svarim, and I think Maratz Chias talks about it, that in general the Gemara is only focusing on those things which were machlokes. 90% there was no machlokes, there was no disagreement. The only things that were put in the Gemara as a disagreement were those particular things that they disagreed on, and many of them were such like far-flung things that it wouldn't even happen or was hardly ever occur. But most everything they did agree on. How do they know? Because they lived as a Jewish person. That's how they knew. They knew the things. We mentioned before also that it says in the Mishnah, the beginning of the Mishnah, from when you daven, when's the time to daven the Kriya Shema at night? But what's Kriya Shema and everything? The Mishnah doesn't have to say. They knew that. They knew that as a Jew. So that is the same idea. But what did they have to know? They had to know certain klolim. That they had to know in order to continue to the next generation and the next generation, because based on the klolim, on these rules, they could formulate halachas. Once again, like here, we're this kufa right now, and you have different inventions that are happening. That was not, when we say Kol Mashe Talmud Vasik Asid L'Chadish Kfar Nemer L'Moshe Misinai, perhaps you could say, what does it mean Kfar Nemer? The klal was there. The klal was there, and then afterwards, the Talmud Vasik Asid L'Chadish, it doesn't mean that particular prat, but it was based on that klal, was Kfar Nemer L'Moshe B'Sinai. So that is what we could say is going on in the pasuk. Arbaim Yaim v'Arbaim Laila, because Torah Lo Bashamayim. So it has to be with a seichel of a person. On the other hand, there has to be the concept of Lechem Lo Yochal Umayim Lo Shasa. You have to understand that it's not just that we need an Albert Einstein, for example, somebody who's a genius in order to paskin the halacha. No, you have to have the ruchnius also. This is what we have. When it comes to Shavuos, I would think that of all the sichos that we have, this theme of the shiluv, of the tachtainim and the elyonim, tachtainim you could say is Lo Bashamayim, and the elyonim that it was mina shamayim, we have a multitude of so many different, you could say hundreds of sichos based on this. And this is in the pasuk. Yet, it seems that there's a magic number of Arbaim Yaim and Arbaim Laila. What is that all about? I didn't see it. anywhere. However, I'd like to say, b'derech avshar, that it's based on the pasuk. The pasuk says, we'll go here back into Bar Ilan. The pasuk says, "V'loi nasan lachem leiv ladas." It should be, it's a pasuk in the Chumash. Loi nasan lachem. We'll do a search like this. V'loi nasan lachem leiv ladas. We have all the dates. Leiv ladas. V'loi nasan lachem Hashem leiv ladas v'einayim liras v'oznayim lishmoya ad hayom hazeh. Moshe Rabbeinu was saying here in Parshas Kisavai, right before Nitzavim, Hashem did not give you leiv ladas ad hayom hazeh. This was the end of the 40 years. V'oilech eschem arbaim shana bamidbar. And I gave you 40, and I walked with you 40 years in the desert. In other words, there's a klal over here. This has something to do with what we say, Laikam adaita derabe ad arbaim shana. That the Gemara says that a person does not reach the full comprehension of his Rabbi until 40 years. Let's bring this up over here. A person does not reach the full comprehension of his Rabbi. His Rabbi told him a certain Dvar Torah, and it would take him 40 years. So there's this Pirush from Rabbi Matisyahu Hayitzari, who lived in the 1400s, and he says that it takes, here's the proof, because this Teichacha that Bnei Yisrael received was only after 40 years in Mishnah Torah on Arvas Maiv. Omer lahem lo nasan lachem leiv ladash shetil yoidim lisho mayim avakesh mehem. Okay, so it takes, because it took 40 years ladas soif daito tfunasai ad mem shana shari Moshe lo ramzel Yisrael ad mem shana. So it took Moshe Rabbeinu 40 years to tell him this, because that's when a person matures. That's what we say, ben arbaim lebina, ratzah loimer yim b'drushim amukim, Moshe Amar Yisrael nasan lachem leiv ladas ad hayom hazeh she'oz b'soif arbaim shana, like we just said. So it seems, we also know that there's a machlokes between Rashi and Tosfos, that what does it mean a person doesn't comprehend until 40 years old? So there's a machlokes whether it means that a person does not get full understanding from the day that a person hears it from his Rebbe till 40 years later, or perhaps it means when a person is 40 years old, that's when he matures and he could have really start to understand things. So we're back to this. We see from the Gemara, we see from here that 40 is that special number. So by a regular person is Arbaim Shana. For Moshe Rabbeinu, together with the Eibishter, the Bes Chavrusa, was Arbaim Yom. It also had to do something with that 40 days and 40 nights. So that's the idea of Torah Lo Bashamayim, and why specifically 40? Because the progression, the normal progression, takes this number 40. By Moshe Rabbeinu it was 40 days, and by Klal Yisrael it was 40 years. Going back to what we were talking about, there is so important to understand and to know that Torah Lo Min Hashamayim, but Torah Min Hashamayim on the other hand. And I'm going to give several examples. We once spoke about this before, but we have a very interesting sefer. Also, Reuven Margolius put this out, who we mentioned him before, was a librarian in Tel Aviv. And the sefer was from one of the Balei Tosfos, called Shailos Utshuvas Min HaShamayim. So he would either go to sleep or he would get himself in a trance, and he asks a certain question. Let's say over here, he asked this short question, V'oitcha alti, and this was the answer. And he received Min HaShamayim. Somehow he had this revelation, and he received these answers. So you see, all the questions are very short questions, and he would receive the answer. The name of the sefer is called Shailos Utshuvas Min HaShamayim, and that's really what was published, Shailos Utshuvas Min HaShamayim. So here, Harav Reuven Margolius gives an amazing introduction about how is it possible that we're going to paskin from a cholam. How is that possible? How do we do such a thing? So you have to. It's a very nice thing to read his introduction. I think it's also on Hebrew books. So this is one idea of Torah Lo Bashamayim, because we need this introduction to give us an idea how is it possible to paskin like this. But I think based on Sichos, you would say that it doesn't mean that he only paskined from these answered and it was blind faith. Rather, it was something which he internalized al pi halacha, and that was just like a gushpanka saying, okay, this is a good thing. I think that perhaps would be the approach. But regardless, this is a good thing to take a look at. So throughout Torah, we find this blend of Torah Bashamayim, Min HaShamayim rather, and Torah Lo Bashamayim. Let me give you a few examples. One example is that Urim V'Tumim. You have the Urim V'Tumim, which basically was halacha questions, and it would light up, but there was also something spiritual. Another thing, Morach V'Dayan, that when it says when Eliyahu comes or Mashiach will be smelling, and from that he'll be able to give a judgment. That's also has to do with something spiritual. The whole idea of a Navi. So, on one hand, we have Torah Lo Bashamayim. On the other hand, throughout Torah, we do have the concept of Torah Min HaShamayim. In other words, we have this blend of spirituality. Let me give you another example, which is brought down in many places. So it says, Kasher Zamam Lasais Le'echav. We know the din of Eidim Zaymimim, and it's the last pair says, how could you say such a thing? Imanu Ayisam. So they make them the Eidim Zaymimim, and therefore you do whatever they plan to do if they wanted to kill, so you kill these Eidim Zaymimim. Now what happens if that group was killed already? So what do you do? If the person was put to death based on the Eidim Zaymimim, so there's a klal, kasher zamam v'loi kasher asa. That's the klal. Mikan amru hargu ein naragim. So the question over here is, how could you say such a thing? It's a kal v'chaymer. If the person was not killed, and they said, how could you say such a thing? Imanu Yusam, and you're going to kill them. Alachas kam v'kama. If the person was killed, of course you should punish him. So we have the famous Ramban, that the Ramban says, you know what? Hashem lo yazvenu biyadai. You have to really leave it up to the Eibishter to work things out. V'oid. Shelo yiten Hashem hashayftim hatzadikim ha'omdim lefonav lishpoich dam naki. Ki hamishpat lelakim hu v'kerev elakim yishpat. So therefore, what we're saying in such a situation where the person was killed already, perhaps the misa bidei adam is not sufficient. We're going to leave it up to the Eibishter. So there we see the blend of Torah mina shamayim. It's misa bidei shamayim, and even to such an extent, it doesn't make sense that we're not going to kill them. Yet not everything in Torah has to make sense. We leave things to the Eibishter. We say the Eibishter is going to take care of it. Another example is HaKadosh Baruch Hu mazmin lepundek echad. Hashem, maybe I don't have the spelling right, lepundek echad. That what happens is that this doesn't have Eidim. We know this whole thing brought down in Rashi. L'zayin Eidim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu mazminu l'pundek echad, zeh shehareg b'meizi yasher tachas Yisrael. In other words, another idea that we leave it up to the Eibishter is we're never going to say, well, there's no din and there's no dayan over here. We do believe Torah mina shamayim, and therefore the Eibishter is going to take care of things. Another example, I don't have the exact words, but what happens if everyone says that he's chayiv, then he goes out free. So what's pshat? If the whole Sanhedrin says you have to have at least one dissenting view. If they all say all of them say that he's chayiv, then he goes out zakai. This is also connected to what we say in the Ramban. If everybody says that he is guilty, everybody in the Sanhedrin, it's not enough the punishment of the Sanhedrin. We say, we give up. We're going to leave it up to the Eibishter. He's going to take care of things. So throughout the Torah, we have this blend of Torah Lo Bashamayim when it comes to a psak din. However, we have to know the Torah mina shamayim, and the basis for that is all in the pasuk that Moshe was up on the mountain for 40 days. But on the other hand, lechem lo ochel umayim lo shasa. How many times did it happen that, and I saw this before, that people would say, Paisik would say, well, I was looking for this certain psak din, I couldn't find it, but I open up a sefer and all of a sudden it's in front of me. This is Siyata Dishmaya. I recall, I think it was in Tafshan Lamed Vav, that the Noida B'Yehuda was asked a question. I'm not sure exactly, I have to find the details of the story, but he said that perhaps it is like the first thing that came to his mind, this is what he thought, and that was the Siyata Dishmaya that he had. Let me share with you something else brought down in my Sefer, Hamaveh L'Sifrei HaRambam, and it talks about, this chapter talks about the Sfarim of the Rambam. The Rambam wrote a multitude of Sfarim. He wrote Pirush HaMishnayos. He wrote, which is on the entire Shisha Starim of the Mishnah, also of Kachim, also of Taharis. Tremendous work. That's what he wrote when he was younger. He wrote Sefer HaMitzvahs. He wrote Mishnah Torah, Yudalat Svarim of Mishnah Torah. He wrote Moira Nevuchim, which took him quite a long time. This is what he wrote towards his older age. He wrote many medical books. He wrote Igeres Hashmad, Igeres Teman, Igeres Tchias HaMesim. They're shorter ones. But this is one person accomplishing so much. How is it possible one person could do such a thing? If you just put things in perspective, you have Encyclopedia Talmudis, for example. Encyclopedia Talmudis was a work that we're familiar with, and it was done through decades of work. think Rabbi Yeshua Hutner was the first one who started. Rabbi Zevin worked on it for decades. There was a whole team of people involved in it, and it's still going. Could you just imagine that one person did it? One person accomplished it in 10 years? That's basically what the Mishnah Torah was. But nobody's medayik in every single letter of Encyclopedia Talmudis. Nobody says, how come it was written like that? Nobody bases a pilpul on Encyclopedia Talmudis, but they do on the Sefer of the Rambam. They do that. Moshe Rabbeinu, the Rambam himself, was an ish seichel. He was Torah Lo Bashamayim. This was not, he delved into the Gemara. He understood it. He made a Pirush HaMishnayos in order to help him before to come to the Psak Din in Mishnah Torah. He made a Sefer HaMitzvahs as Hakdama. Everything was gradual. Everything was with seichel. Everything was categorized. This was the Rambam. This was a mensch, a seichel dika mensch. So the question is a simple question, Pasha Begashmias. How is it possible that he was able to accomplish such a feat of writing all these Sfarim? So there was someone by the name of Reb Moshe Chagiz. Reb Moshe Chagiz lived in the 1600s, 1700s, and he wrote something so interesting. We'll soon tell it to you. But let's first what he... let me get over here 1 second. There we go. Reb Moshe Chagiz was from Eretz Yisrael. He was a Shadar. And he was at one period of time in Amsterdam. He was the one, together with Chacham Tzvi, that fought a battle against Shabsai Tzvi, who was gone already, but the followers of Shabsai Tzvi. There was a person by the name of Nehemiah Chiyun, and they were fighting against him, saying that he was a follower of Shabsai Tzvi, and there was a whole thing, and he was also together with Rabbi Yaakov Emden, who was the son of Chacham Tzvi. Anyways, we're soon going to say a quote from Reb Moshe Chagiz. Now, the Rambam himself writes about our Chachamim, the Tanoim. The Rambam writes that when in Shmaina Prakim are 8 chapters before Pirkei Avos, which is Akdama to Pirkei Avos, and he says something which is understandable. And he says that our Chachamim, when they wrote the Mishnah, perhaps he's talking about also the Gemara, but I think here is the Mishnah, that we have to realize that Asher Kvar Chibru Boy Chiburim V'lo Yechilu Teda Shenemar B'koyach Eliki B'lo Safek, that it's impossible for them to have written such a sefer if not for the Siyata Dishmaya of the Eibishter. That's what the Rambam writes about our Chachamim, about our Tanoim. So, Rabbi Chagiz in his sefer, he wrote a sefer called Mishnas Chasidim, and he says concerning the Rambam, Ish Chacham Mushlim b'Mailas K'moisha Rambam Zal B'chol Hashem V'Chachmas Shenisasik Behem, would not have been capable of writing his Sfarim Lulei Sha'Kadosh Baruch Hu Haya Oizer Loi, if the Eibishter would not have helped him. Lo Yaya Efshar L'Koyach Hanushi L'Seif U'Lechaber HaSfarim Asher Kosa V'Chiber. This is what the Reb Moshe Chagiz writes, and how important it is for us to understand that when it comes to Torah, we have to realize that there are 2 things in Torah. One thing is that we have to take it with our own seichel. We have to understand that Torah Lo Bashamayim, it's Arbaim Yom V'Arbaim Laila. In order to study, even Moshe Rabbeinu had to study, it was only the Klolim. And he had to give it over in a proper, organized way. And nobody could come up and say, you know what, this miracle happened to me, and therefore you should paskin like me. Or because of Das Torah. Who's the one actually to recognize who is Das Torah, who is not Das Torah? No. Mehechen Dantuni, you could say, I want to understand, according to Seichel, how you arrive at a certain halacha. What are the klolim that were being used? That's on one hand. On the other hand, Albert Einstein could not have been a posek. Why? Because you need the spirituality. The lechem loy ochal, umayim loy shasa is integral. And that's what we have throughout our Torah. I'm just looking through my notes over here, that we have all these different things. The Ravid comes along. The Ravid says, Kfar Oifia, Ruach HaKodesh. The Ravid says, Sod Hashem Lireyav, Kfar Oifia, Ruach HaKodesh Bebeis Midrasheno. Comes along the Maggid and says, oh, you Ravid, you're saying, what does that have to do with halacha? Why are you mentioning in Mishnah Torah? It also has to do with Hilchas Lulav. Why are you mentioning even this? V'im kol hashevach hazeh shu meshabech svarasei Farah Ramban Zal Dvarav. The Ramban himself was a Mekubal. And he answered, we're talking about in Hilchas Lulav, there was a different chibur that he wrote. Regardless, what we're talking about over here is that Torah Lo Bashamayim. Torah Lo Bashamayim, so it doesn't make a difference if you're going to say that Kfar Fia Ruach HaKodesh Bebeis Midrasheno. That does not raise even one iota his reliability, because Kfar Fia Ruach HaKodesh, what difference does it make? On the other hand, let's go to the Beis Yosef. The Beis Yosef in his Shulchan Aruch, he says that I'm writing it based on 30 Svarim. And there's a list of all the different 30 Svarim. In one of them, either the Rif, the Rambam, or the Rosh. So the Beis Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Karo says, I'm basing on Rashi, on Taisvus, Ram, Piskei Rif. It keeps on going on and on and on and on. But he does mention a couple words at the end. Ubiksas Mekaimes, my More HaZoyar. He does rely on the Zoyar. So what's going on here? So we have the Radvaz, and the Radvaz says, well, if there's a machlokes between the Zoyar and the other Sfarim, we don't paskin like the Zoyar. But we see from here, the Zoyar, you could say, is more spirituality. It's a sefer of Kabbalah. How does that come into halacha? The answer is back to what we were saying before. This is what Shavuos is about. Shavuos is, on one hand, Lo Bashamayim, Arbaim Yom V'Arbaim Laila, and that's the basic, that's the aside. But we can never forget that Lechem Lo Yachal Umayim Lo Shasa. So from this shir, it's just like a yesod for this concept, and you could keep on going on and on and on about this idea. And this, I think, is appropriate for the holiday of Shavuos, which is a Chag Shel Ichod, a Shilov, a Yoinim V'Tachtonim, a good Yar, a good Yom Tov, Kabbalas HaTorah, B'Simcha U'B'Pnimius.